Imagine this scenario. Imagine this scenario. For centuries, millennia, your ancestors have ploughed the fields of Britain, milking many a moocow, pulling many a lever, scrabbling at many a coalface, being frogmarched off with bayonet, rifle, sword, to stop the whole place from caving in, as they were told by those who owned the silos, who fattened up the empires, whipped the natives, shot the rhinos. Your ancestors were Irish slaves, Welsh miners, English shepherds. They laid the pipes, they pumped the sewage, dug the roads, were peppered with German bullets, choked on mustard gas, built ships and lorries, stoked engines, mixed cement, fought off a million mortal worries, fought typhoid, smallpox, polio, Napoleonic trouble, kept calm and carried on while Hitler smashed their homes to rubble. Your father drives a minicab. Your mother feeds machinery. 20-storey tower blocks make up the local scenery. You're still a baby when the marriage dies of green-complexioned health, so no one teaches you to swim or cycle or protect yourself. No master shows you how to be a man and grab reality by the balls. He's busy watering his popularity. You grow up in a ghetto where a third of all your neighbours descend from those who lent this land millennia of labours. And in those dreamy years after the darts of death had withered, before the towers crumble and the planet starts to shiver, your streets become infected by a viral form of preacher proclaiming that their foreign dogma is your country's future. For 30 years, while Islamists grow smug on housing benefit, no one notices that your attention has a deficit. The rest of your community's a round hole to your square peg, and all your creativity just lies there like a spare leg. You're not turned on by television, drum and bass or football, and nobody is going to let you set foot in a good school. So there you sit with pigeon brains concocting plans to hurt you, and parrot lines of French because there's no other choice but Urdu, where using proper English means you think you're some flamboyant king, and means that you're a puff, a queer, a rasclat batty boy and ting, a pushti pezavenk, a shishna-sucking Gora Gandu. Que devez-vous faire maintenant? There's not much that you can do. One night, in a graffiti-smothered pit of social atrophy, a pack of boys with fewer brain cells than a pickled anchovy pursue you down the high road, swinging poles and pipes and batons. Their gleaming metal cracks your head. Their rubber sportswear flattens your face. They swipe your empty wallet and your tatty mobile. Here launches your revolt against the virtue of the docile. As further down the road you run, just focused on surviving, bleeding on the windscreens of grown men who keep on driving. Your bookish tendencies propel you into university, where pyramids of dark, politically correct perversity entomb Qureshi, Wordsworth, Austin, Ishiguro, Chaucer, where almost everyone's a liberal leftist law enforcer from some pristine Land Rover clogged boulangerie crammed village, some prissy solicitor's sproglet who's scarcely set eyes on a black or brown visage. They're worldly wise authorities on racism, apparently. Half their conversations are parades of moral vanity. For 3 long years you're yawning at some puffed-up, bum-fluffed ponce who says all humanity can live in Ipswich if it wants to. This doctrine camps a struggle with your deficit disorder, but you scrape a cape, some motto-blotted paper and a mortarboard that doesn't fit. Then wander in a zigzag back to London, where comparing Lawrence Sterne and Salman Rushdie's a redundant flare. You stare into a void with no idea of how to find a career, and tuned to glimpsing glory, all you want's to bind the severely wounded, limping, out-of-action art of poetry to the powerhouse of electronic music, though it be as likely that a record label oligarch would favour some bitter anti-globalist, class-conscious rant and raver who shouts in sapphic odes, ballads, rondels and Russian sonnets above a Mockney Burke recalling how his best mate vomits on 13 pints of piss, or a Jaffacan bint who prattles in sanitised opinions just like all the edgy cattle, as a publisher would dare to shake a 10-foot barge pole at verse that's not the cryptic nothings of a tedious arsehole. And so you stumble by and buy biographies of Byron, by nibbling on a nabob's knob, by tightening a tyrant's tie, your top job's in a workshop, as you see the dreams of youth crushed, scrubbing mud off scraps of Roman porcelain with a toothbrush. And there you sit, between two classes, cultures, worlds. You fidget towards them both. The gap is gaping, though. You cannot bridge it. The tax you pay flings rockets at Iraqi haberdasheries. It pulverises coffee shops in screaming, blood-strewn batteries. You didn't give consent for this. Your country's just a colony. Was there a referendum? No, there isn't a democracy. No socialism, nationalism, nothing to believe in. The working people's tongues are ripped out by conniving, thieving, identical imperial globalist PC puppet parties. You'd like to race against this, but you don't know where the start is. Not once do you vote Labour. You could never vote Conservative. All traitors, crooks and paedophiles. You switch off and no further give a flying badger's tit about what happens in the Commons, as London empties cockneys and fills up with bearded omens. The seeds of World War III are blowing nicely on the zephyr. Here come the ticking vests. Your country's fucked, perhaps forever. As the lonely years plod by, your heart is full of longing. It grows obese on hunger, on the emptiness that's thronging through your threadbare love life. Every person that you speak to might as well be Mr. Spock, or maybe R2-D2. But still, you're cracking at the seams to meet someone who'll nourish your cobweb-cornered heart into an upward-thrusting flourish. Each word that springs from female lips is just a dreary racket. Blah blah promotion, blah blah pay rise, blah blah income bracket. Or else a sickening buzz, blah blah we need more immigration, blah 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 xenophobic racists, blah blah celebration of vibrant blah blah blah, vibrating like a verbal dildo up her holy minge. Traditional ways are long since killed, so you can't walk up and ask a girl if somewhere underneath her 6 coats of bullshit or above her talkative urethra there throbs a soul, since, ordered by society's shining recipes for hurtling faster than a coked-up lemming off a precipice, approaching girls is sleazy and invasive. It's harassment. And so your life is starved of warmth, of wonder, of attachment. But then a teenage working-class red-headed wordsmith bursts in and says that she's in love with you. You're suddenly immersed in a 5'10", half-Scottish, old-school socialist rhyme scribbler. You're shaken from your skull tip to your rib cage to your fibula. You'd slay a pack of kangaroos armed only with a spatula, set fire to Margaret Thatcher with a single soggy match for her. You'd scale Ben Nevis with 16 typewriters on your back for her, prance round the roughest pub in Dublin in a Union Jack for her. You'd crawl across the Gobi Desert on your hands and knees for her. You'd stick your hairy bollocks in a hive of killer bees for her. You'd share your bed for 6 months with, instead of her, a porcupine. But what she won't explain to you is she's a borderline. The girl's a raging, lava-breathing maze of dizzy delusion. For 40 months she coughed up lithium in an institution, a pale-hued Loch Ness harpy whose emotional pollution surfaces in gushes, fanning ripples of confusion. Petty quarrel number 1. She issues threats of violence and then declares a lifelong policy of howling silence. Your every quest to reconcile rebounds against her retinue. She sends her gangly father and the boys in blue to threaten you. She tells her friends and colleagues to ignore your every email, that she is just an innocent, harassed and fragile female. So no one speaks to you, or listens to a word you're bleeding, or treats you like a living, yearning, showering human being. By now, the world's a pointless vacuum, full of pointless vacuums. Each day you ponder leaping from the heavens to the catacombs.